Hello, greetings. This is Astrologer Climate Witness on YouTube. I haven't made very many of these videos because I always feel like I have more preparing to do. So as we look around us and see the various events unfolding, as astrologers, we have a duty to stay informed of current events, historical trends, and past processes in our history, American history, world history. It's a lot because just studying astrology itself is a lot. But to be a better astrologer takes a lot of education on the human race and on the planet itself. That might be my orientation because I have so much Sagittarius. I like to work with whole concepts and philosophies, but constantly taking in new information, Gemini, is important also, as we have been experiencing through the North Node transiting through Gemini and opposing Sagittarius. It's always a balancing act. And if one slows down enough to come to terms with their own feelings, their own thought processes, it can become evident to us how we are integrating or not integrating, ingesting and not digesting information. So actually part of what I'm stating right now is going to be the theme for another video that I've been working on for a good few months. It's not so much that there's so much in there, it's just that I always feel like I have to present it a certain way and I have to be ready. So this particular video is going to be, the theme is about the transformation, death, and hopefully rebirth of, I'm going to take that back. It's about the transformation and death and rebirth that's supposed to occur with a Pluto transit. That's the positive side of a Pluto transit. Excuse me. But as we all know, even in a natal chart, and therefore then in an individual's life, the more positive result doesn't always occur. Yes, it is a very difficult thing for a person to change on a very deep level. And so therefore, it is also very difficult for a species to change, to transform, to die in a way that allows for a rebirth, a regeneration of that species, that society, that civilization. So, where are we now? I'm going to state right now that I cannot see the Earth's whole population, because that's what it would take, changing their behavior and expectations to be able to continue on as a species on this planet. Instead, I see factions of all kinds, especially at the top, manipulating our situation, denying the realities, and trying to convince the world populations that deep change is not necessary. Oh, they talk as if that's what they mean, but that is not what they mean. So we're talking here mostly about Pluto transiting through Capricorn. Pluto itself, as most astrologers will know, rules that transformation and death and rebirth. But in Capricorn, that deals with structures by which civilization functions. Well, I'm sorry, but those structures of civilization are not transforming. We are continuing with the same old, and trying to add technological fixes to something that requires a spiritual and cultural change to create a rebirth. Now, when you look at the science, you can see that we have no more time. We really don't. There are plenty of scientists out there that are saying we've got feedback loops, tipping points that are in motion. It's like a freight train, and there's no way really to stop it. Now, I'm going to read this little piece I wrote, a couple paragraphs, which will help sum up some of what I've just been saying. Oh, I had it here. Okay. So I'm going to discuss the energy of Pluto in Capricorn here, and specifically how that is working within the U.S. Pluto. In the U.S., Pluto is in the second house of values, personal finances, and remember, the basic essence of Pluto is death, transformation, and rebirth. Is that transformation of economic systems happening in the U.S.? So the second house rules personal finances. So therefore, in a country, within a government, it would be that country's own personal finances of that country. No, it is not. We continue to pound away at the capitalist method of organizing ourselves as a culture. Now, I will continue. Don't get your dander up about my mentioning capitalism in a negative sense. So, the three major economic systems that humans have used to organize themselves so far to date, capitalism, communism, and socialism, are not working for us. Why? All of them are still industrially based economic growth systems. Let that sink in. Industrially based economic growth. They all orient toward growth, whether it is the capitalist growth for this or growth for the state in terms of communism, etc. Any industrial economic system at this point is just a continued destructive force putting too much pressure on the Earth's systems. Humans just need to stop putting pressure on Earth's systems in order to entertain themselves, manufacture luxury items, convenience items, etc., etc. So here I sit, and I dressed today to exhibit some of what I'm discussing. So when you think of Pluto and Scorpio, Pluto rules Scorpio, you're looking at power. And in astrology and in many studies along these lines, color is part of a presentation. So we have a deep, rich scarlet red, and we have silky velvet material. And in our past, and even as of today, But think back hundreds of years ago, even farther. What was the way for leaders and rulers to exhibit their power? It was their ability to obtain beautiful, wonderful fabric, let alone all the other things that they had. Amongst some of that would be slaves. So the concept of power being represented by Pluto shows us that going through Capricorn, Pluto is working in either of two ways, but both at the same time, basically. Although at this point, one side's winning and the other side's losing. So one side would be the powers that be are trying to hone down and increase their structural methods of keeping the masses in order, Capricorn. The other side are the masses trying to take down the hierarchy that has been built up. The rich elites. And when I say that, that term elites has been used in a way that doesn't really describe what I'm getting at. We're just talking at this point about an economic system that has created those who have acquired monetary power and are using it to wield that power to keep others down. But it's not just about that. It's also about the fact that our resources on this planet are at a point where the pressure being put on this earth is too great. And it's true. The planet will eventually be fine, I think. It's our civilization and our individual people, our cultures that will suffer. So when we're talking about hierarchy of Capricorn, that's a class system that has continued to develop, even though in most cases, many people believe, oh, we live in a democracy, so that can't be true. Well, basically it is. I mean, there are many readings that people can look into to find out what that class system is structured like, who is towards the bottom, the middle, the top. So what I'm really getting at here is you can see the tearing down of the organization of the United States structures at this point. Now, we've been talking about Pluto coming back to its own position early this year, 2022. I believe, if I remember right, it's February 20th, but the date to the day is not really that significant necessarily. The process has already started and it's continuing, as we can see from last year, January 6th, the storming of the Capitol and the attempt to carry on an insurrection to disrupt the voting in of the president that was elected. Now, when someone's discussing all of this, it doesn't always mean that they're for one side or the other. I would have to say, there are specifics that keep me leaning in one particular direction, and that is I'm not for someone who could care less about the planet by purposely, misguidedly, however, or purposely choosing to increase the raping and the disruption of the planet by allowing our agencies like the EPA to allow more drilling, more oil production, pushing hard and putting the foxes in charge of the hen house, basically. I am not in that direction. But I will have to say that the person who did get elected, who said that that person was willing to work on our climate issues, I hate to put it like that because there's really, it's more than that, but that person's not doing what they said either. I learned the lesson back when President Obama was in. I really thought he was going to be an extremely transformative president in regards to climate, and he was not. I do get that our whole world is based on the kind of energy that fossil fuels can give us. This is part of our issue. This is part of the problem. When you're listening to what I'm talking about here, you have to give it some thought and give time to listen. We have painted ourselves into a corner. One country stops using fossil fuels right now, like tone it down drastically, but other countries continue to power up and use their fossil fuel resources, reserves. It's a fear that one country is going to get over top of another because of the power that this energy affords any particular government. The United States has been absolutely, extremely adept at this. China's catching up. But it's fear that one country won't stop because the other one's going to win. You know, they're not going to stop using fossil fuels, so how can we stop? Here we are, stuck, painted in this corner. At the back of the corner, it's just a railing, it's not even a wall. And if we keep backing up, we're going to fall over it. In front of us, not only are we painted in, but there's alligators coming at us. I mean, really, I know that sounds really silly, but that is where we're at. The leaders do not have an answer. There are scientists who are stating that if we switch to complete renewables, it's really not doable. Because they're only looking at climate. They're not looking at biodiversity loss and the destruction of ecosystems that it's going to take to rebuild a world global grid to accommodate the kind of power we need for transformation to renewables and to power the kind of economic system, cultural necessities that people feel they need. We just cannot do it. There's articles about mining the seafloor. There's articles about, fracking or tar sands coming to the mountainous states in the United States. Who wants to rip up the mountains there? And look up the tar sands, look at the pictures. I've done these kinds of videos before, and I've said some of these things, but my point this time is to show that the process of Pluto tearing down the structures by which civilization functions has already gone into play. The past year especially, with particular factions working on one side, and then you have the super rich trying to gear everyone up. Oh yeah, we can go to another planet. We can fly to space. Oh, look over here. See this? This is wonderful. This is what humans are capable of. Not. What does it take for the average citizen or the average individual to realize you cannot keep tearing the planet up? You cannot continue to rip apart the ecosystems. You need to learn certain words. Ecosystems, habitat. It's necessary for the education of the population of the planet, population of the United States, to learn more about this so that they know and understand. Again, as I stated in the very beginning of this video, I don't think we're going to make the changes behaviorally and expectation-wise to be able to save ourselves. I think we're going down. But in the meantime, we can keep banging our heads against the bricks to see whether or not we can at least help people understand more of how and why everything's happening so that they're not blaming the wrong things and the wrong people. And hopefully we can create more, I want to say peace, but let's say less conflict. Okay, less conflict. That way, families cannot be split apart. Families can still talk to each other. Friends can relate on the real root of the problem instead of disagreeing about aspects of what's happening that don't matter. You know, we have a pandemic and there's been such conflict over it. Well, that pandemic is important, but I really want people to understand the real freight train coming at us is biodiversity loss and climate change. That's something that affects us on not just things in ways that we can't just see, like storms and droughts. It's small things. The acidification of the ocean, the soil health. Begin to study soil health and what's going on with our soils all around the planet. The loss of our forests. When one thing gets to me is that when somebody brings up a solution, they only talk about that one thing, that one solution. But they're not talking about a systemic solution. Renewables are just a technological idea. It's not a systemic, behavioral, expectational solution. The idea that we could change to a global degrowth planetary economic system, now that's talking. Degrowth. Everybody's always been talking for years now. Oh, they want one world government. Well, if I start talking about global degrowth, that's exactly what people are going to bring up. They're going to say that, I'm promoting a world economic, one world government. No, not really. Degrowth would bring things down to the local level so that we could get rid of mass production, which is done by corporations and the global elite who would get all the money from that. Why not have degrowth and have it based on many, many small and tiny businesses, whereas many people as possible are producing what is necessary for themselves and their small community, maybe their small region. Why aren't we going in that direction? Why do we continue this mass production scale of whatever we want, whether it be entertainment and sports or goofy products that we use every day that aren't necessary? I mean, we are not going to change the effects on this planet if we don't change our expectations and our behavior. Now, that has to be done at the top. You're not going to educate people enough quick enough to get them to stop doing it themselves individually. It has to be done at the top. It is a hierarchy, and at this point, and they have all the power, but somehow, let's just say somehow, I don't know how, we would be able to get a degrowth system started. The only way I can think of is to have more and more people learn what that means. I do believe that the people who would put it into place at this point would do it so that the degrowth was minimal, and the rich would continue to have their, flights and their, and here and there wherever they wanted to go, and their yachts and all. So do I think we'd really be able to get it done the right way? A massive, drastic cut in economic growth around the world? And don't get me wrong, everybody, I've mentioned this before, and people, well, what about people who have nothing in Africa? And or of course they don't have to degrow the way we would have to. I don't have the solutions for that. I'm not an economist, but you can't tell me that there's not people out there that would be smart enough to figure this out so that it would be equitable, and just. One way or another, we're going to have degrowth. My point is, if only we could do it in a planned method and have it be fair and just, we're not going to be able to come out of this without losing. What we've done to ourselves, we've set ourselves up for losing. And we are already losing. Look at the fires in Colorado. Look at the massive catastrophes that have happened just this year, but it's been going on for over a decade, 20 years. It's been building, and they get worse. But when somebody says, like right now in the area that I live, oh well, we've had winters where we had no snow before, and well, guess what? Climate change has been a process ongoing for almost 100 years already. It's not just the last couple decades. It was already in process before this. It was minimal, so it wasn't actually that observable to people that were just the layperson not paying attention. But it's been going on for decades upon decades. And it was known that this was going to happen. Now, so therefore, when someone says to you, oh, well, 10 years ago, I remember we didn't have snow on Christmas. Yeah, well, that was after climate change is already having its effects. Okay? So, it is not exactly easy for people to accept the fact that their dreams that they wanted, say somebody was raising their child to become an Olympic athlete, say somebody's getting their child ready to become, a football player. This is not natural. It's not. But it doesn't mean we can't have good, fun, fulfilling lives and dreams. We just don't have to do it on a mass scale. Now, I'm very worried that all of the technological solutions that are going, out there for people to see are only a band-aid, and everybody's going to think, oh yeah, they got it covered. Well, they don't. I'm sorry. Now, as Pluto finishes up in Capricorn, which is going to win? The powers that be are going to dupe us into believing that they have control of this situation. Are they going to be able to get us to toe the line and follow through on continuing to believe in the capitalist way of organizing ourselves? Are we going to be able to understand that centralized power and centralized economic power is the answer and is going to help create the kind of world that is just and meaningful? By the time Pluto leaves Capricorn and it moves into Aquarius, what's next? Pluto's transformative power moves into a sign that is about distribution of knowledge. non-hierarchy. It's about equality. It's very different than Capricorn. Aquarius is the first sign that is human, completely human, okay, of the symbols that represent each sign. So it could be either mankind transforms because of the energy of Pluto, or it could be that the energy of transformation that is affecting through Aquarius ends mankind. I'm not whitewashing anything here. If you're going to watch my channel, you're not going to see hopium and apocalypticism and all those terms that have been coming about. You're not going to see any of that. When you're talking about astrology, you're talking about a system of thought that is like standing on the outside of us and observing the essences of the signs and the planets are neutral. They're specific kind of energies. And it's up to us. That's where free will comes in. It's up to us to affect those energies in the most positive way we possibly can. But the more conscious that a person is becoming, and that's not some voila thing that just happens magically. That is you working hard through gaining knowledge and not shutting yourself off and refusing to listen and learn. You have to listen and you have to learn all of what you can about various aspects that are happening around you and why they're happening. You have to go deep and you have to communicate. And this is the only way to understand. You can't understand if you shut yourself off. I understand that there are some people it is too much for. But at least do not shun those who are trying to learn and understand. It is a necessity to grasp the world around you as a human being. We've always been that way. The evolution of the human species isn't just a physical evolution. The mind, of course, we know has evolved over time, but there's another aspect. Since now the population of the planet is so large that we have to go through a sort of evolution of our sociological connections, if you want to put it that way. And that's part of what the Pluto through Aquarius will be about. The way that human beings relate to someone, to the fact that there's other people on this planet that they do not know personally, but it matters. What you do in your life matters to somebody on the other side of the earth. And you can talk about all the things that we already discussed in that regard. Like, okay, the long supply lines. Well, think about how somebody here in the United States, you're eating chocolate. Well, what did that require of somebody in the area that grows chocolate, usually South America, etc.? Did their kids, harvest that instead of being in school? And what is school? I mean, what are we teaching in school? I mean, we have to review everything. And I know that it's hard for somebody to say, well, I can't help what they're doing. Well, in a way we can. We can do that because if we expect to have particular items that are not necessary for our existence, for our health, for our well-being, if we expect that and we're purchasing them, what are we doing? We're helping create the situation. We learned some of this with blood diamonds, but did everybody stop using brand new diamond rings for their weddings and engagements? No, it didn't affect a cultural change. This is what I'm getting at. If you're going to talk about doing better, then let's do better. Let's look deep inside ourselves and say, do we really need to mine more diamonds in order to, cement our marriage? You can use somebody else's diamond that's already in existence. We don't need to get new. We don't need to mine more gold, more silver. We don't need to do that. Why are we still doing that? It's a cultural thing. Yes, it's also an economic thing. Our industries expect to be able to do this. But until we have a cultural revolt about these types of things, it's going to keep on going. It's just our expectations and our behaviors are perpetuating the death of our biosphere. Like I said, the planet might be fine, but our biosphere is what keeps us alive. Our habitat is what keeps us alive. As it diminishes and falls apart, what are you going to say then when you said, but I need a diamond ring for my wedding? I have things on right now. Nothing's new. I buy everything secondhand. My earrings even, they're secondhand. I don't care about impressing someone with new items. I do not. But I'm still caught in the culture to some extent. We all are. We're caught in a culture that's perpetuating the destruction of the planet. And until we learn deep, transformative expectations and behaviors, it's not going to change. And the only way to bring the top down to their knees is for us to learn what we need to do, what we need to stop doing. Every time we talk about taking action on climate, first, maybe this. Look at what we can do to take action on stop killing the biosphere. Stop consuming. Stop perpetuating the existence of massive corporations that are the ones providing the products. Are we going to get our leaders to just say, oh no, you can't make cosmetics anymore? I know a lot of women are saying, what? No cosmetics? No makeup? Well, guess what? A lot of it's made with petroleum, and you have to have energy to make it. What if we're going to make a new world based on a new kind of energy? Why are we going to make so many renewables that we're going to make enough energy to make makeup? You're digging up the planet to make these renewables, but you're going to do it to get energy for some luxury item. Why are we going to have renewables to keep a stadium running for professional sports? We need to look at what's absolutely necessary. Does that mean we can't play football anymore? No, you go to the park or go to your neighbors, go somewhere and get your people around you together somewhere and go play. It's about playing the game. It's not about some world famous personality that you want to become to make the world a better place. No, that's not going to make the world a better place. Mass production of anything, whether it's entertainment or products, is got to go. Centralized power. Some people listening to this think I'm talking about that. I'm not talking about that. Right now, you could look at this as this. Let me go back a little bit. Pluto and Capricorn, okay, I discussed that. The opposite sign of Capricorn is Cancer. So Many people are very Cancer oriented. It's about their family, their security, their emotional security. They want to keep people close to them. They want to be comfortable in their homes, and they're afraid that if they stop to look at what's happening and why it's happening, that they're going to have to give that up. Actually, no, because if we're talking more about what I'm discussing, you're going to have more close relations with those around you. That's why it might be kind of important if you talk to those of your family members who live far away. Maybe they need to not live far away anymore. I know that's a really big thing if somebody's, got a career somewhere else. In the long run, the other axis that we're going to be looking at here is the Leo Aquarius. Leo is about, hey, look at me, I'm on stage. And that's what a lot of our culture is about. It's everything has to be, I'm a world famous person. Whereas Aquarius is more about not the ego of look at me. It's more about, hey, what about us? And being a team player and viewing their existence in terms of cooperation and collaboration and groups together, working together, having fun together. You can do that in your neighborhood. You can do it in your small community. You can do that within your home. Have more people over. Have your own guitar. Do folk music. I mean, yeah. I mean, you could have a bar still. Somebody can make their own alcohol, but it doesn't have to be mass production. We are killing ourselves. And I'm not really sure YouTube's going to play this, but this is where we're going. Take another look at Pluto's essence. It's about power. It's about rulership. But that's the negative. The positive is deep transformation. Which are we going to do? Are we going to allow the powers that be to tell us what we need to do to change? Because they're not telling us the right thing. If you are studying enough of history and science, you're going to find out that we probably are not going to win this. So everything I say right now might be moot. But we can't go down without a true fight. We can't go down without having the courage of our convictions. Really, that's the point. That is being a true, transformative, spiritual individual. Go down having the true fight. Kind of Pluto and Capricorn is the minimalist. Now, I can't say I'm a minimalist. I have a lot of secondhand stuff. But that is basically the orientation of Pluto and Capricorn. Capricorn being management of the Earth's resources. In order to have management of the Earth's resources, and in the United States chart, it is our own monetary finances and our own resources within the country. How are we going to manage that? Are we going to let the rulers, the powers that be, continue to run the show and misuse and abuse the planet under our feet? Or are we going to, as the masses, are we going to grow? Are we going to have real mature growth in understanding our situation and take our power back? We do not need to be consumers. We need to be part of our families. We need to be part of our communities. We need to be part of our neighborhoods. Get to know your neighbor. It can be really hard if somebody's not understanding all of this. Yes, I get that. But the only way for us to go down with this true fight, the courage of our convictions, is to be that which we feel is the right way to be, at our trying our best. It's not that easy. You have family around you within your immediate family who don't want to make changes that need to be changed, who don't want to do the kinds of behaviors you're discussing. And they'll make fun of you. But that's the way it's always been with true dissenters. You're not someone who people like to have around because you remind them of what needs to be done. And it's not always fun. We've gotten ourselves to the point now where the kind of changes that are needed are really drastic. So again, some people even make fun of this, saying, oh, you can keep talking about all kinds of solutions and they're not going to work. Well, I kind of agree. But it's up to the individual listening to this to learn as much as possible and not be telling a client about how wonderful their life is going to be, because you can't ignore what's happening around you. You can't ignore the realities of our political system, the realities of our environmental biosphere destruction. You can't ignore our economic system that is part of that problem. So, as an astrologer, learn as much as you can. Go deep. Look at the essences of the planets. Astrology itself is a human construct, but it doesn't mean that what the planets and signs and the houses symbolize is not real. Capricorn rules structure, and we have a physical planet that we're on, and it's structured a certain way. Pluto rules the force of death, transformation, and rebirth. A log falling in the forest decomposes, makes new soil, and new plants come out. Taurus rules that soil itself that came from that Plutonian Scorpion process, and the soil is life-giving. It is terra firma. That's Taurus. You have Leo rules creativity, that joy from creating. Okay, and we do that every time we create a child within us. The idea and the love and the fire that it takes to be in love and to do that creation. And then you have Libra. Well, in nature, there's always balance, the necessity of balance, and the idea of beauty. Beauty attracts. And I kind of used to make fun of that a lot when I would see certain astrology videos or reading things, because it always seemed like a commercialized idea. Oh, attraction, let's do love, okay, that is real. Bees see the colors in the plants and it attracts them. And therefore, what comes out of that is the process of pollination. Nature has its way of functioning through these concepts, these processes. All we're doing with astrology is naming them. And then astrology takes apart all of this and allows us to look at each piece because we name it. We name the process. We name the function. Okay? So it's a very good system to be able to help us take time and to understand. Okay? I think that's pretty good for today. I have to end it here. Thank you very much. If you go all the way through this video, it's a little long, and I got a little slow start, but I'm hoping to come out with another one soon, and it's the one that I'm talking about the disinformation that's been going on, and it's not a political discussion. It is about the process of clarity and sorting through information, etc. That's coming up. I've been working on it for a while. Thank you. Bye-bye.